I'm Megan Skidmore, and welcome to the Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. I'm a woman, daughter, sister, spouse, mother, life coach, and person of faith on a mission to normalize asking questions and allowing doubts on a faith journey and all aspects of life. Join me as I bring this traditionally taboo topic out of the shadows of shame and into the light. I firmly believe we normalize through more talking and engaging in discussion. More talking peels back, exposes, and erases the layers of shame associated with asking questions and allowing doubts. When we are more authentic about our journey, we are more powerful because shame has no power in the face of authenticity. Story mapping is a key component of my signature program, Life Outside the Binary. When you experience an awakening and see for yourself the world is not all black and white, you choose which of your long-held stories align and live outside the ones that don't. Have you hit a wall or feel stuck, simply cannot figure out what to do to move past, or are you unsure of what your next move is or how to find it? Do you have a problem or concern that seems too big to manage or know where to begin? The real challenge isn't the problem or concern, but the story you are telling yourself about your value, abilities, and power to move past those problems or concerns. Join me for a story mapping session. Nothing is off limits in our 75-minute intensive. You will gain more than insight, clarity, and at least one tool you can start using today. You'll remember or learn how to breathe again. You will start to feel a glimmer of hope or sense possibilities. You'll start to see where your stories end and you begin. Link is in the show notes. Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast is a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, which is part of the Dialogue Journal found at dialoguejournal.com. Founder Eugene England was a Mormon writer, teacher, and scholar who wrote, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue. My hope is that this podcast is an extension of that vision." Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. I'm Megan Skidmore, your host, and I have someone I consider a dear friend, and yet this is our first time actually conversing, albeit virtually. I have Jill Mortensen with me today, so welcome.
Thank you, Megan. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited for you to be here as well. I love having a variety of guests on this podcast because what that means is a greater variety of voices. And I kind of see myself as a story collector. I love collecting these stories of faith that those who come on share. They're all unique. They're all different. And I honor every single one of them. Your path is for you, my path is for me, and all of those that are listening, your individual path is for you. I really strive to shed that us versus them mentality, and let's just meet at the bridge and let's just share and be human beings and listen to each other's stories, because really our stories are that's what this is all about. So I first connected with you several years ago. We're both parents of kiddos who identify as LGBTQ+, so that's the common thread. We connected, and I've loved watching your story unfold, at least from the time that I connected with you, and learning some about it before then too. What a treat for those that are listening to get to hear it and
thank you.
Recorded.
Well, it's just a pleasure to be here and to be able to have this conversation. So thank you.
Yeah. So to just get started, I want to turn the time over to you to share your background story, your origin story, your upbringing, your family of origin, your faith of origin. You know, I know you're married and you have children, you know, your education, just all those things that kind of make up you, your story, and ultimately brought you to the point that you're at. I know there's a lot of moving parts there, but just the things that you feel would be significant. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
So I'm fifth generation Mormon, like full pioneer stock on both sides.
Same.
Yeah. I arrived by handcart, basically. So I'm very proud of my heritage. I love my Mormon family, my Mormon history, my Mormon ancestors. They were tough. They had grit. They had determination. And I often feel their presence in my journey in not maybe an expected way, but
so cool.
The perseverance and the trailblazing and all of those things that I really
gosh,
like.
That's going to make me cry. That's so cool. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just think, we all have our own unique journeys. I'm not pushing a handcart. I'm blazing my own trail and making a safer world for my child. It's not an easy path. There's lots
For
of
sure.
bumps and rocks along the way that you have to push through, and there's not a clear path ahead. You have to really forge that for yourself
That's
and
such
for your own family. Yeah.
a
So,
good analogy. You're a pioneer for sure.
oh, thank you. There's been a lot of discomfort, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of grief, and I still wouldn't trade it for the world.
Mm-hmm.
I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of back up a little bit, obviously born and raised Mormon, very Orthodox family. We did
Mm-hmm.
everything you would expect, right? Did church attendance,
Sure.
young women's. I feel like, I don't ever fault my parents because I know they were doing what they thought was best for me, but I felt as the oldest a heavy burden of expectation that I was supposed to be a certain way and do certain things. And I am an Enneagram 9 and I'm very stubborn. So whatever you tell me to do, I will do the opposite and do it even harder than anyone else. So when everyone was telling me, at age 19, 20, oh, it's time to settle down, I'm like, absolutely not. Like there's a whole wide world out there and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go and see it.
I
So
feel that. I
I went
feel
and got my
that.
education. I got a bachelor's in communications from University of Utah.
Okay.
And then I got my dream job. I was a insurance company marketing rep, and I had the territory of all of Utah, Orange County, California, best shopping in the world, San Antonio, Texas,
Okay.
and Austin, Texas. And in addition to those places where I traveled, I was able to travel to Georgia, which is where the home base of the company was, and several other states. So I was able to kind of see the country a
Wow.
little bit in my
Mhm.
in my position, and I worked in that job for about 4 years. In addition to that, I had a lot of disposable income, so I was able to play with my
Wow.
friends and go on fun vacations and buy what I wanted. And
That sounds fantastic.
so honestly, like for me,
Yeah.
I can't imagine doing it any other way because I was able to do a lot of self discovery,
Mm-hmm.
find out who I am before I was able to comfortably choose a partner that I was compatible with. Unfortunately, I chose the very best.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband Mark, we actually met in college and we knew each other for 5.5 years before we ever went on our first date. We were best friends for that long.
Wow.
So our love story is one of my favorites because it was a very much a Harry Met Sally. We just had this foundation of trust and friendship, and we saw each other through a lot of hard times. And so, kind of like once the timing was right, the light bulb clicked on, and I was like, "Hey, it's you." So
That's
we got
great.
married in 2003. We just had our 20th last year, and we have three beautiful children.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest is Sid, and they identify as lesbian and non binary, and they use they, them pronouns. My second, Mitchell, he'll be 17 in August, and he is a sophomore. And
Okay.
then my youngest, Ava, is 13, and she is in the seventh grade. So I live in St. George, Utah. Absolutely love it here. Sunny, Red Rock country.
Yeah.
Love to go hiking, be outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
I primarily stay at home. I volunteer on a couple of different boards that are affiliated with LGBTQ community. I was the advisory board chair for Encircle St. George.
Okay.
And now I am serving on the board of directors for Pride of Southern Utah, which is a local nonprofit here.
Okay. That one's a new one for me. I've heard of Encircle, but not the second one.
Yeah, Pride of Southern Utah is
Oh,
not,
Pride. Okay.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
Pride.
My
Yeah,
hearing.
Pride of Southern Utah is probably in the last 10 years it's been around. So
That's great.
yeah, I
Great
love
to
it.
have
I just
you.
love being involved in that community. They just bring me so much joy.
Yeah, I have found the same. So I've become involved in organizations as well.
Right? Yeah.
So you're from, I think you told me this before we hit record. You're from
Oh,
Salt
yeah.
Lake.
Yes, I grew up in Salt Lake. And so when I got married, we moved here to St. George.
You've been there for a while then.
21 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Pretty much the
This
majority of
this is this is home now.
this is home.
Yeah.
So you've grown roots and you have folks that you've probably known for quite some time there.
Yeah. Yeah. We do have most of my family is still in Salt Lake, but we do have Mark's mom who lives here quite close by, actually, that we're kind of helping to care for her right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So other than that, I mean, I have a lot of friends that I consider my family here that have really been chosen family.
That's wonderful,
Yeah,
especially on this journey to have that. That's a gift.
it is. Yeah.
We can get to a little bit more of that in a minute. So you are self-described as fifth generation Mormon, LDS
Yeah.
Church. And I know how that feels. There's a lot of feeling of connection to your ancestors and also to those that are currently living. And sometimes with that comes maybe an unspoken expectation or maybe self-imposed to some extent, pressure or whatever. I'm curious to know a little bit more about your faith journey, having been raised the way that with the teachings, the tenets of faith that you are when you're born into the LDS faith. It can be, for lack of a better word for right now, tricky
Mhm.
to figure
That's a
out
nice way to put
to
it.
do to figure out what to do with new information, particularly so when it directly contradicts what you have been taught. And it's a lot of things for a lot of different people, but I want to hear from you, like what that has been like, how you navigate that space when you come from a certain family background, faith background, and you have this information that, I'm going to, assume felt true to you, maybe not in the beginning. Just can you share a little bit what
Yeah, yeah,
your faith journey has been like as it relates to being a mom of a queer kiddo, but also, I mean, sometimes other factors come into play too.
absolutely. It's a very layered and complex and nuanced journey for sure.
I like layered. Laired's a good
Yeah,
way.
very, very layered. Sometimes the way I like to think of it is when I was born, I was handed a box, and the box was beneficial for me when I was younger because it had boundaries and it kept me
Okay.
safe. As I grew and evolved, met new people, explored new ideas, became more curious, the box started to feel less safe and more constricting. It felt like it was keeping me from growing. And so when I began the journey of dipping my toe outside of the box,
Hmm.
I started with listening to just every audiobook I could get a hold of, right? Of just like starting with Brene Brown, The Power of Vulnerability. And vulnerability is not something that was ever modeled to me.
Hmm.
In my family of origin, we are traditionally, I don't want to use this disparagingly, but like perfectionism runs in my family. It just does. It's like every appearances are everything. And a lot of that comes from Mormon culture as well, which is unfortunate.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think that's atypical. Like, I don't think
Right.
it's just a Jill's family thing.
Yeah. So I started to really want to work on challenging some of those
Hmm.
beliefs and ways of thinking as I got into my 40s. And when my husband told me in about 2014 that he was having some questions about the church,
Okay.
my immediate reaction was the room was spinning.
Okay.
Right? I'm like, okay, what's happening? Like I've only ever known this way. And so this new way feels so scary and unfamiliar and destabilizing that my first reaction was fear
Yeah.
and panic. And I felt really strongly in that conversation with him that I needed to prioritize and validate his concerns and his feelings and what he was going through versus adding a layer of shame up
Hmm.
on top of what he was already feeling for breaking the deal, right? Because you get married in the temple and there's this whole thing of like we've committed to this and we're doing this together forever. And so I knew that there were a lot of, whether he expressed them or not, a lot of emotions there that he was feeling very vulnerable to share that with me. And so
Sure.
I really wanted to just take a step back from my own fear and honor that he was sharing it with me, because that's a gift in itself that he felt safe enough to do that. So, as he started to share some of his concerns, they were more around the truth claims of the church. And
Hmm.
just he was discovering new information that wasn't aligning with what he previously knew. And for him, it just was a real sense of betrayal. And this is his story, but I'm just sharing just in perspective of like
Yeah.
where kind of how I
It
got to where
also
I am.
it also flowed over into your story
Yeah,
some.
it informs how I exit
Because
as
in
well.
order to, like you said, which I really appreciate this, you prioritized validating his feelings and his experience. And I think some people see validating as agreeing with, whereas validating is acknowledging you're human. I can see
Yeah,
you have actual questions, you
right.
have actual concerns. That's real for you, even though you didn't have them maybe at the time,
Yeah.
right? to dismiss those would be invalidating, meaning, no, I don't believe you are having this experience when it really
Absolutely.
has nothing to do with agree or disagree.
Absolutely. And I think coming back to that probably later in our discussion, validating and believing people when they tell you who they
Mhm.
are, what they're feeling is so, so critical. And so, anyways, I'm just trying to think where to go next because it was a whole grieving process for me of
Mhm.
him losing his belief, which he eventually did.
Mhm.
I was in a really dark place for probably about 3 months where I just couldn't like see a life where we weren't on the same page. I was like, I don't understand how we're going to do this. Like mixed faith marriages are tricky,
Mhm.
very tricky, especially
Yeah.
in high demand religions like Mormonism.
Mhm. It's a lot of
So
expectation, a lot of things that are outside of your control once that enters the scene.
absolutely. So I
Mhm.
was, still taking the kids to church, and I just felt this really like just this burden of sorrow. And I would go, and people would start to ask me where he was, and rather than asking him, this passive
Mhm.
aggressive is also a language of Mormonism.
Mhm.
So I was like, well, if you want to know that bad, why don't you go ask him because I'm doing my best here.
That's fair. That's a fair
Yeah,
request. It's his
yeah,
story. It was his story, at least at that point.
absolutely. Yeah. So I did my best. We kind of limped along for a few months, and then I had this. I don't know what to call it now because my language for defining spiritual experiences has changed. But I had a moment where I still define it as something that was outside of explanation. It didn't come from me. I
Mhm.
just remember feeling so sad and just lost. And I just
Mhm.
remember like at the time saying a prayer and just asking God, like, how am I going to do this? What is this going to look like? And how am I going to move forward without him by my side?
Mhm.
And I just got the most clear impression of how much my husband was loved by God. And it was like the clouds parted,
Mhm.
and the love wasn't conditional on his belief in the church. It was like, he is loved, period. And that was it.
That's
That
so
was the
amazing.
turning point for me. Because
That's
I
so beautiful.
just was like, I felt this burden lift off my shoulders of like, I don't have to fix him. I don't have to make him something that he's not. He is perfect exactly as he is. And so as soon as I felt sort of that, not that I needed permission, but I just needed that confirmation and that comfort to know like it's okay. It's okay.
And I think you needed, that was a new thought that maybe it hadn't occurred to you before,
Yeah.
that he was loved regardless,
Yeah. Well, because
just
so much
because he
is
is. Uh-huh.
conditional, right? Like we learn conditional love and
Mhm.
transactional love, and
Yes.
you do this and you get this blessing, and it's this and this.
Right.
So it's never really unconditional, even though a lot of times that word is thrown around. It's in religion, it's very conditional.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. Very, like you used the word deal earlier or transactional. Yeah.
Right.
That's beautiful. I love how I acknowledge that you said you use different spiritual language now, but at the time you offered a prayer and you felt this burden of sorrow lift.
Yeah.
And I think you used the word, it came from something outside of you, something greater than you.
Mhm.
And I honor that, Jill. That's part of this journey of taking in new information and metabolizing it in the way that we know how and applying it to our lives. And sometimes that means using new language, which I mean, if we were to rewind, 100 years to a century, I mean, a millennia ago, we have different words to choose from than our ancestors had. And we continue to gain new words. And the words that they used at that time don't necessarily mean the same thing when we use them today. My point being that it's hard to actually put words to some things anyway. So I
Right.
honor what you are sharing with us from the bottom of my heart. I love hearing it.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you sharing how hard that was for
Yeah.
you
Thank you.
to
Thank you.
navigate and truly move to a place of just love. I truly believe we cannot go wrong if we lead with love.
I could not agree more.
And so that kind of was the kind of a catalyst, I guess, for you as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
your faith
So
journey to moving to a different place. Uh-huh.
from there, let's see. That was roughly right around 2015, which is when the policy of exclusion came out.
Okay.
That was a gut punch. And for
So,
your listeners who don't know,
yes, yes.
the policy of exclusion within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was November 5th, 2015. I'll never forget the date because it's seared into my memory.
Mm-hmm.
It was leaked. The policy was leaked online, and my husband saw it and read it out loud to me. And I literally thought he was reading from The Onion or something. I was like, there is no way this is real. The policy said parents, LGBTQ parents of
Mm-hmm.
children within the children themselves cannot receive the ordinances of baptism.
Yeah.
Was it just baptism?
I think it was baptism at that point
So they
until
couldn't
they
be
were,
baptized unless they disavowed their parents' lifestyle.
I think it was until they were 18 and then they would
Yes.
have to, yeah,
They had to wait till they were
disavow.
18 and they had to disavow their parents'
Yeah.
gay lifestyle,
Very,
which is just unconscionable. I can't even find the word for it. It just was
yeah.
like infuriating. And it felt nothing like the church that I thought I loved.
Yeah, it was one that did not make sense to me either. I was still in kind of a very is blind faith kind of the way to describe it. It hurt my heart for sure. I yeah, it is in hindsight, as a more evolved person, it's unconscionable to think of a child being expected to make that kind of a choice. That's, I mean, from a psychological perspective,
Right.
from a mental health perspective, that is, talk about a burden. That's a big,
So
huge,
damaging.
heavy burden. So
Yeah.
that was part of the journey too,
Oh,
then,
that was a
for you
big
both.
crack in my own
Okay.
shelf. Yeah. And my husband, he's always had a very soft place in his heart for LGBTQ people because his former stepmother divorced his father because she came out as lesbian.
Okay.
And so and he loves her to this day, like always has, like she helped raise him.
Hmm.
So when the policy came out, it really affected him in a way that maybe somebody without that connection,
Yeah, for
it might have
sure.
been easier to sort of not
Yeah.
dismiss it, but not have quite the visceral reaction that he did. So I was deeply affected by that. And that kind of pushed me into a lot of self-reflection and deep diving on like, is these beliefs and these teachings serving me anymore? So I kind of really did like just a really thorough examination of where I was in my faith journey. Like I just was starting to feel, and I don't even want to call it like questions or doubts because it was more about like it just didn't feel right.
Well,
It
let
was
me ask.
feeling like it went against my heart and like
Uh-huh.
it felt unaligned with how I saw the world and what I believed about people.
So, yeah, you asked yourself, are these beliefs serving me anymore?
Mhm.
How hard was that? Or
Oh my gosh, it's
to ask
just even
yourself
asking
that?
the question is terrifying, right? Because your whole life in the LDS church, you're taught to like doubt your doubts.
Hmm.
Don't, like questions are, they say questions are okay, but they're not. In
Or even,
reality,
or
it's like,
maybe conditional. It seems like if they're the right answer, then they're okay. Like there's usually a
yeah,
right answer that's like sometimes that's how it came across to me, that
yeah.
there was a right answer for that
And
question
it, and if the answer
already.
isn't satisfactory, then just have faith,
Hmm.
which was starting to just not sit right with me. And I was just kind of pushing back on some of the stuff that I was seeing and hearing. So that leads me to my next sort of
Okay.
unexplained outside of me inspiration moment that happened when I was out. I was just outside going for a run in the morning, like I always do. And I was listening to a podcast with Glennon Doyle and Oprah.
Okay.
Oprah was interviewing Glennon. And this was way back. I mean, this was 2016,
Yeah.
2015. So kind of pre-Glennon fame.
Hmm. Wow.
Anyways,
That's a while
so
ago.
Oprah was asking her at the time, Glennon was involved in a nonprofit organization that provided housing and services for homeless LGBTQ youth.
Okay.
And so Oprah asked her essentially, like, what was it about this cause that you felt so drawn to? And she just said, if it breaks your heart, you need to be there. And she said, the fact that over 40% of homeless youth are LGBTQ plus, almost half of all homeless youth identify as LGBTQ. And why is that?
See.
They get kicked out of their homes when they come out. They don't have support. they're 14 years old and they come out to their parents and they say, I'm sorry, you're not welcome here anymore. What does a 14-year-old do when they have no roof over their head? That is
Yeah.
absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
And I like something broke in me when I heard that statistic. And when I heard her explain that, I just started sobbing. It was like, this is not right. This is
Yeah.
not right.
Yeah.
No 14-year-old belongs on the street.
So true.
I
Agree.
like again just had this overwhelming impression that came from outside of me that just said, you need to be involved in solving this and being there for people and listening to them and seeing them. And I can't explain it. Like it just was almost like a calling. It was just like, you need to get involved. You need to educate yourself. You need to serve in that community. You need to volunteer. You need to listen. You need to understand what these people are dealing with. And I told my husband, it was on a Friday, I remember, because we went out for a date and went to dinner that night. And I told him about the impression that I had. And he kind of got emotional as well, because he's so, deeply cares about that community as well. And he said, yeah, you need to follow that impression. You need to get involved. And he totally encouraged me and validated that impression that I had.
That just
And
gave me chills. I love that.
oh, well, and then like the most serendipitous thing happened, because that day, like that night when I got home from dinner, I was just like on fire inside. I'm like, okay, let's go. So I emailed Stephanie Larson, who's the founder of Encircle.
Yes. Yes, she
And
is.
I just poured my heart out to her and I told her everything that had happened the previous morning. And she said, okay, you're not going to believe this, but we just purchased property in St. George to build an Encircle.
No.
Like,
Wow.
tell me that's not like divine intervention or whatever you want to call it. Like,
It
it
is.
felt like all
All
these
the
little planets
stars
aligning.
aligned.
And so I told her on the email, I didn't know her. I just knew of Encircle because they had a couple, at the time they had a location in
Provo.
Provo and Salt
Hmm.
Lake, and St. George was third. So I just told her, I'm like, count me in. I'll do whatever you want me to do. And I just jumped in with both feet and just started helping to get the St. George home off the ground. Like they had to kind of do some demo work on an older pioneer home that they purchased and
Okay.
re-landscape everything and redesign it, remodel.
Uh-huh.
And then I became the advisory board chair to kind of do some community gathering and get people involved in helping to get the word out about what Encircle was about. And from there, it's just like,
That is so exciting to be there kind of on
yeah,
the ground level when it just was starting out.
it was such a rewarding experience. And every one of those impressions that I felt were validated, because getting to know that community was so enriching in my life and so
Mhm.
rewarding, and just brought such a different perspective and like a shift in the way I saw people. Like I let go of all judgment.
Most definitely.
I don't see people in categories anymore. I see
Hmm.
hearts and I see love and I see light,
You could have taken those words right out of my mouth.
right?
I feel the same. I see
Yeah,
hearts.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
see hair color, jewelry, clothing styles or options, or if it matches how they are, how they present. Does it match how my
yeah.
traditional interpretation of
Yes,
gender? It's a process, but
it
it's an
is
evolution of your heart that is worth investing in.
worth investing in 100%. 100%. Yeah, I would do it. I would do it again 1,000 times over. It's been the most beautiful, heart opening journey and experience that I have just absolutely benefited from.
So, for those that may not be familiar with Encircle, just to give a little brief background of Encircle, can you share a little bit about what they do
Yeah, I
and
would
their
love to.
role with LGBTQ
Yeah.
plus youth?
Encircle started out in Provo, Utah.
Hmm.
Founder Stephanie Larson initially, let's see, she started it in 2000 and I want to get this wrong. I think it was 17, I think
That
was when it
sounds
opened.
about right because I remember seeing it in the Believer document.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
like that might have been recorded in 2016 or 15, but it was right around there.
I know it was Valentine's Day and I think it was 17. Anyways, it's a
Uh-huh.
physical home that parents of LGBTQ youth and the youth themselves, and as well
Hmm.
as LGBTQ adults, can come to
Hmm.
for resources, education, therapy, information, community. It's essentially like they created it because there's such a suicide epidemic, unfortunately, in Utah. There is a
Mhm.
teen suicide epidemic. It is the highest, let's see, statistically, it is the highest cause of death in teens in
In
Utah.
Utah. Wow.
It's bad.
Breaks my heart.
Absolutely. And statistically, a lot of those kids identify
Right.
as LGBTQ.
Yes. Almost half from what you said earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it really is a problem. And Stephanie saw that providing those resources at a physical location could be potentially the start of a solution to that problem.
Mhm.
And so she opened the home in Provo, and then Salt Lake City followed, and then
Mhm.
St. George was third. Heber is now open, and
Yes.
Ogden will be next.
Yes. I'm crossing my fingers somehow they'll make their way to the South,
I hope so too,
that
because
we'll
I
see
feel like
them.
every conservative community needs an Encircle.
Yes. Yes.
It's such a reminder to see that physical representation of a home that is a safe space. And some kids
Yes.
may not even have anywhere that they consider safe,
Hmm.
except for that one spot.
Yes. So
So
it's kind of a home away from home for them, other than they don't sleep there or live
no,
there,
yeah, it's
but
not
they
like a
can
shelter.
go and just chill and be themselves.
Yeah.
And
Go after school, bake cookies, do your homework, hang out
mhm,
with kids that are like you and get you and
because it's
see.
like set up like a home with furniture in the
And it's
family room, living room,
beautiful,
right? And a
beautifully furnished.
kitchen with
Yes.
table and chairs. Like they can literally, it
Yeah.
can be a homey feel, a safe place for
And
them.
that's kind of their goal, is to create that home-like
I
environment.
love that. I
Yeah,
think that it is so needed in many more communities.
it
Well,
is.
thank you for sharing that. I don't think I realized how much of a you were involved in the from the ground level, like there in St. George.
Oh,
It's fantastic. I love that.
it's been so wonderful to be involved in it. But because of that involvement,
Uh-huh.
which brings me to my next phase of my journey.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So my oldest Sid, they came out to me in 2019. Yeah, 5 years ago. And
Okay.
I firmly believe that the reason they felt so safe sharing who they were was because of my visible involvement with the LGBTQ community,
I'm sure.
because they knew I was safe, because they knew I was informed, because they knew I wouldn't judge them or think less of them. They were able to sit down and have a conversation. They drew me this adorable little, I've seen your little rainbow behind you. They drew me a little rainbow
Mhm.
because they're an artist. So they drew me a rainbow. And then there was a little cloud at the end of one of the rainbows that said, Mom, I'm bi, but please don't treat me any differently.
Oh,
And I just was like, we just hugged and cried together. And I just thanked them for sharing that part of themselves with me, because what an honor that so many parents don't get to have that vulnerable moment with your kid when they share who they are.
so true.
Yeah, I saw that as such a gift that they trusted me. And I
It is.
know like that is not the journey for a lot of parents. A lot of times that's the starting point.
Hmm.
And you have a lot of unraveling to
Hmm.
do with preconceived beliefs about that community and what that's going to mean in your faith journey. And not that I didn't have all those questions, but I felt like I was maybe one step ahead
Yeah.
because of my involvement with the community.
Yeah, you definitely had some preparation. How,
Yeah,
what a blessing for you and for Sid.
I think so too. And so I always tell any parent that has any kind of like, not premonition, but just maybe a feeling that your kid could potentially be part of that community, do whatever you can now to learn, educate yourself, become more aware about the LGBTQ community and those experiences in case
Hmm.
what you feel is true.
Because regardless, they're watching you. They're taking in your words,
Absolutely.
your mannerisms, your voice fluctuations. They can tell how you feel about that community. And even if they don't end up coming out to you, sharing some type of identity within that community, it could affect their level of comfort or trust in sharing other things that are of great importance or significance in their life.
I totally agree.
It's so important to be aware of the love, the grace, the compassion that we are expressing and showing through our words, our actions, our behaviors, our inactions, or the things that we don't do as well or don't say.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree.
So that was, you said, about 5 years ago. So you had been working
Yeah.
with Encircle for a while at that point. And if I remember correctly, I remember you sharing your story to one of the parent groups that we were in, are in. Perhaps you were still involved with the church at the time.
I was, yeah. So this brings me to my kind of last phase.
Okay.
My final spectacular exit from the church.
Okay. Okay.
I just kind of lit a match and threw it and walked away. So Sid came out to us the fall of 2019. And at the time, I was serving as the secretary in our stake Relief Society presidency, which, for those who don't know, that's the women's organization within the LDS Church. And
Mhm.
within the congregations, they're called wards. And then within the stake is like a collection of wards within your
Mhm.
geographical area.
So it's like a part of a large city often.
Yeah,
And if
yeah,
you're further from Utah you go, sometimes it includes the entire city.
right. Yeah. So when I received that calling, I was very hesitant because my beliefs were shifting.
Mhm.
I didn't feel like it was fair to represent myself as something other than I was.
Mhm.
So I had a conversation with the Stake Relief Society president, the one who had submitted my name to be in that position.
Mhm.
She actually came to my house and sat down with me, and we like shockingly had a very open, honest conversation about where I was in my beliefs, like where I was in my journey. And I flat out told her, I'm like, I don't really believe that this is it, but I'm like, I can do secretarial stuff. I'm like, if
Uh-huh.
you need Google Docs and emails, I can help with that. She's like, that's literally all I need. She's like, I don't even care where you are in your journey. I honor where you're at. She was like in her 60s and the most open-hearted, gracious, understanding Mormon I think I've ever met.
Mhm.
Like it was so refreshing. I'm like, so I'm kind of a hot mess right now, but you still want me? She's like, yes, I do.
Kudos to you both. You
Just
for
open conversations.
showing up
What a novel
authentically
concept.
and honoring what was going on inside of you,
Yes.
and taking it even a step further and sharing it out loud. That can be, especially in the beginning, it feels kind of scary.
Very
You have to
scary.
tolerate a lot of discomfort in order to do something like that. So kudos to you both, and kudos to her for being open-minded
I
and
agree.
non-judgmental.
And she really holds a special place in my heart as my journey progressed because she and the others I was serving with just kind of caught me when everything fell apart. When, I wasn't able to have those hard conversations with family
Really.
because it was just
Hmm.
too hard.
Yeah.
So, anyways, back to the fall of 2019. So Sid
Yeah.
comes out. We're just in the middle of planning for the women's general conference, which is typically the Saturday night before general conference, which happens
Right.
semi-annually in
Just
April and
just the
October.
biannual worldwide meeting for the
Right.
LDS Church.
For the
Yes.
LDS Church. Yeah. So, anyways, we were at this conference. So it would have been about a month, give or take, from when Sid came out. So for parents of LGBTQ kids in high demand religions that are non-affirming, when your child comes out, you start to have this filter, everything switches, and you hear and you see everything through that rainbow lens and that rainbow filter. So
So true.
all incoming information was hitting me in a very different way than I had been prior to Sid coming out. So one of the speakers at that event was Dallin H. Oaks, who, for those who are unfamiliar, has a very hard line stance against anything affirming with the LGBTQ community. And when he was announced as a speaker, we didn't know until that night. When he was announced as a speaker, I just felt this pit in my stomach, like I was dreading what was going to come out of his mouth. And he started to speak, and I want to say about 4 sentences in, he started railing against LGBTQ stuff. And I think for a person without that filter, obviously they would have heard it differently. But the way that it hit my heart was like it was so visceral in my body. It was like every cell was rejecting his words. I was like, you don't even know what you're talking about. You're talking about my child. How dare you? Like I was just livid and I was so
Hmm.
sad and I was so frustrated because I've dedicated 40 plus years to this church and you're going to throw my kid under the bus like that just because they don't fit into this tiny little box that you guys approve of. And I was so disgusted and just so heartbroken.
Yeah.
And I couldn't reconcile. I just
It
couldn't.
is. It is
Like, this is
heartbreaking.
the end of Mormonism for me. I'm like, I'm not safe here. My child's for sure not safe here.
Hmm.
There's no more benefit. It's run its course. And as hard as that was, having that confirmation and knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was no longer for me, it was no longer serving me, I was able to leave the church that night and never return.
You
That's
left
been
it the
5 years ago.
night of that meeting.
Yeah.
Jill, I honor you and your journey as um, your LDS heritage, as a mother, as a daughter, as a sibling. You have other siblings, as a spouse. I hear the pain in your voice, and I can hear. It's almost like I can see it too, coming up for you, even now, 5 years later.
Yeah.
These are not easy spaces to navigate. These are not painless places. And I honor anybody who is in this space and who is brave to do what they feel is best for them and their family.
Thank
And
you.
and I thank you and I share my love with you and your family for being willing to share it with not just me today, but with our listeners and those who will listen perhaps years from now. These decisions, these choices are not easy. And in many cases, they are heart wrenching and heartbreaking to feel that sense of, you use the word, I think, betrayal from something that has meant so much to you for, well, all of your life up until that point. And well, I mean, I think there's always going to be some place in there that there's going to be some meaning there. It's in your DNA, right? It's in your part of your heritage and your children's heritage for that matter. And in some ways that makes it all the more understandable that the feeling of hurt and pain and betrayal that accompanies is because of that. So obviously your journey, if we were to rewind back to young Jill, has been different than what Jill of yesteryear probably thought that it was going to look like. And that means, well, I'm referring to your faith journey, but I would extend that to even mean your journey as a family, as a spouse, as a parent, and so on. What advice we can say that would you offer to younger Jill and honestly by extension to any other parent who's listening? What advice or thoughts or counsel would you offer to someone whose journey looks like it's turning out to be different than what they had perhaps anticipated it would be or expected that it would be?
Oh, that's such a great question. I'm so glad you asked that because I have learned a lot in the
Mhm.
past few years over perhaps what I would have done differently and what I am glad that I did the way I did. I would say prioritize your mental health. Um, Being out of alignment, having cognitive dissonance, not staying in your integrity, all have consequences. And whether you admit it or not, it can cause you physical and emotional and mental problems. I mean, I will say what before I had everything kind of fall apart, I was falling apart, trying to keep believing things that I in my heart knew weren't right. So I think acknowledging that when you have cognitive dissonance, allow that to be a sign that maybe you need to make a shift in your life and move to a different space that is more in alignment with your evolving beliefs, your evolving life experiences. For me, my lived experience having a queer child did not align with what the church was teaching me about queer children. And so once I got in alignment with my own self and what I believe to be true and know to be true, it was honestly like somebody took a weighted vest off of me.
Mhm.
And so I think pay attention to your body, pay attention to your mental health, watch for signs that you need to make some changes. And also, I think probably the biggest piece of advice I would give is expect destabilization, expect disorientation, expect discomfort, expect just loss and grief. And that's okay. Like it is hard as hell to go through a faith
Mhm.
transition. Like talk about dark night of the soul.
Yeah,
It is so difficult and so painful. And I connect so deeply with people who have gone through that because I have so much empathy and so much compassion for people that have been courageous enough to go into that cave and have that dark night of the soul because it rocks your world.
it does.
But you
Your
know what's even
foundation
harder?
crumbles.
You know what's even harder?
What's
Not doing
harder? Yeah.
not doing it.
Avoiding it, resisting
Avoiding
it,
it.
denying it's there for sure.
Yes.
That just makes
Yes.
the
It's
foundation crumble
inevitable. The
more.
sooner you go in and get it over with,
Yeah.
the better.
That's really true. So much of what you said I can relate to. I hear you. To go through a faith transition, a faith expansion, I like to call it, it is painful. It is a dark night of the soul. And I really appreciate that you bring up the mental and emotional health piece. That is something that just cannot be overstated, in my opinion. And historically, it's not a piece of our overall human health that we have focused a whole lot on. I mean, as recent as the 80s and 90s, it was still somewhat, there was a stigma attached to even talking about having a therapist or getting support in that area or being on medication or any of that. So that's such a good and true point that being out of alignment will affect not just your physical self, but your mental, emotional, I'd say spiritual, intellectual self, all of the facets.
Every single facet.
Yes.
Yeah. And I also probably my another piece of advice and encouragement is
Uh-huh.
that it doesn't stay, you don't stay in the darkness forever. When you come out, things are brighter and lighter than before. And so there is so I want to offer hope and optimism to those that might be just entering that phase. Like, how am I going to possibly do this? Know that there is happiness and joy and lightness and brightness on the other side. And you can find new community, safer community, chosen family. It's the death and the end of maybe like a previous version of yourself, but you upgrade to a better version.
Yeah. I attended a mastermind for life coaches about a year and a half ago, and I loved what one of the speakers there shared. And that was something to the effect, I've had to die 1,000 deaths to become the person that I am today. And, there will be more deaths in the future. But the symbolism there, it's real. Every time we evolve into our next best self, there is a death of some of the pastness of ourselves. And thank you for sharing that there is hope on the other side, because
Yeah,
sometimes that's hard to feel or see or understand, especially when you're in the throes of it.
for
So one
sure.
final question I love to ask my guests is, what does it mean to you to live beyond the shadow of doubt?
I love that question. The most immediate thing that comes to mind is when you step out of a shadow, you step into light. And some of the synonyms of light are coming to mind of like unburdened, bright, cheerful, illuminated. And so for me, stepping
Mhm.
out of the shadow allowed me to just shine and be authentic and not have to hide anymore. So stepping into the light has just been like this whole journey of like honestly joy and happiness. I just feel so unburdened. I get to just be me.
That's beautiful. I love that for you. I'm really excited to have this episode published. There's been some really beautiful things we've talked about, and I've gotten to know so much more about you. And that's probably my favorite part about
Oh,
this
thank you. I
conversation.
feel the same way. This has been so lovely.
So, just for fun, I always throw out a few questions at the end so we can get to know you just a little
Yeah.
bit better. And I'm just looking for 1 or 2 word answers. No, nothing major. But tell us your favorite book or audio book.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I would say, I think we mentioned it previously, but The Power of Vulnerability. If you haven't read it by Brene Brown,
Yeah,
she has been one of my greatest teachers
me too.
on this journey.
Would you consider yourself an introvert or extrovert?
Oh boy, introvert with a capital I. Give me a cat and a book and a quiet house and a cup of tea, and I am happy as a clam.
That's awesome. And who is your favorite artist?
I am a huge fan of the Lumineers. We just saw them in concert last summer, so I
Oh,
love them.
fun.
Yeah,
I can't remember if I've seen them. It seems like I have, but I've seen a lot. That's a fun band.
yeah, I love
Um,
them.
what about, are you a night owl or a morning lark?
So the older I get, the less night owlish I've become. But I do still enjoy being up late and watching the Stephen Colbert with my husband.
That's fun. And do you have a celebrity crush?
Dolly Parton.
Oh, I like that one.
I love Dolly Parton, like Dolly for president.
Do you do still or carbonated water, or are you a diet soda fan?
I am not a diet soda fan. I always have my trusty
Yes, I see
still
that.
water.
There's Stanley. No sides, only love. I love the
Yep,
sticker on it.
Encircle. Yep.
And the furthest place you've traveled.
Japan.
Yay.
Yeah, we went to Japan in 2010 and
Okay.
stayed with the host family. And honestly, it was
How
life changing. Life
I,
changing.
yes,
Best people on the planet live in Japan.
we finally got to go last year to visit, not with a host family, but
It
it
was
is
part of like
cleanest place I've ever been.
it was so wonderful. There's like a whole thing with the city of St. George, and then there's a city in Japan, and they have their sister cities with their marathons. So we sent our delegation
Oh,
to Japan, and they do the same. So we got to go with the delegation and stay with the host family. And the experience was so enriched because we were just in the home of a Japanese family. And so we got to just see them living their lives and experience their culture and their food. And they were so gracious and so kind and so welcoming. I just had the most amazing experience there.
what a memory. So glad you guys got that.
That was
So
fun.
if folks wanted to connect with you, Jill, or if they had questions that they wanted to reach out to you about, what would be the best way for them to connect?
Yeah, I am online social media wise. Instagram is Jill_Mortensen, Mortensen.
Okay.
Facebook is Jill Naylor, Naylor, and then Mortensen. I'm
Got
not
it.
on Twitter or X or whatever it is now, and I'm not on TikTok because I'm
Yeah.
old. So yeah, Instagram's probably the best place.
Okay, I will leave both those in the show notes for folks to
Great.
find. Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you for the work
time.
you're doing, Megan.
Yes.
I really admire you and the work that you're doing to normalize these conversations. And I have just really enjoyed kind of going back through some of your recent interviews and listening to such a wide variety of guests and their perspectives. And it's so enriching and so enlightening. And I just want to thank you from one Mormon to another.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for normalizing
Yeah. It's
expansion
a
of
it's a
beliefs.
painful space. We have to
Yes.
normalize that just because people aren't talking about it doesn't mean it's not happening, because it is happening.
And we
It's
need to talk
happening.
about it.
Yes, there's no shame in it
No, no shame
at
at all.
all.
So thank you for helping to remove that
And
stigma.
no matter if somebody has chosen to stay connected with the church at this point or chosen to distance themselves or leave, to me, we're still all connected as humans. We're still all connected as part of this giant human family created by the same force, whether a person refers to that as the universe or God or Allah or a power that's greater than us all, right?
Yes.
And for me, love is what binds us, right? Love is what connects us truly on, I'd even say, molecular level. But yeah, these are so important to me. And I thank you so much for being willing to come on and share your story.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
First Friday's free coaching, a confidential group to bring all the questions, vent frustrations, share fears, express doubts. Navigating a new and uncertain reality is hard enough. Let's remove the worry of judgment from others. In this group, I will help you help yourself so that you can be there for your child, family, loved ones, and for you too. Click the link in the show notes to sign up. You must complete the agreement. Hopeful Spaces is a Dallas Hope Charities component of Hopeful Discussions, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA. It's a free monthly parent, ally, or caregiver support group facilitated by Megan Skidmore Coaching. Email chc@dallashopecharities.org for more info. Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com to find this podcast and additional free resources, including the link for a complimentary coaching session. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more, or to send me a DM. Help the podcast grow. Please follow, review, and share with a friend.